Assalamu alaikum. In this video we will understand about the physiology and the effect of the dopamine. How our dopamine will release and how it can work and what is the benefit and what is the side effect. We will understand all these things. So basically the dopamine is the neurotransmitter released from your brain, not any other peripheral part of your nervous system, but it will release from central nervous system in your brain. So whenever you will feel happy, you will feel pleasure, it means you are releasing the dopamine, and this dopamine is the neurotransmitter. Dopamine is the excitatory neurotransmitter, excites the other neuron when bind with the dopamine receptor. So whenever you will feel happy, so the dopamine will release. In the case of dopamine release, you will feel happy, you can get reward, and in this way you will want to again intake of the certain things or watch that certain things like pornography or other things. In this way, the again stimulation of the dopamine will lead to get the reward, and that reward requires more amount of the drug or other things for the releasing of the same level of the dopamine. If the dopamine will not release, it means the frustration, anxiety and depression can be possible. So how to maintain the dopamine, we will understand also. So the dopamine is the neurotransmitter which that release on the basis of the reward, and our requirement for again stimulation for the dopamine for reward getting strategy. In this way you should require more dose of the external environmental factors or the xenobiotics, or the basically for simple to understand the nicotine or the other drug like amphetamine, or on the other hand a lot more drugs like cocaine, heroin and cannabinoid chemical present in the marijuana. So in this way, whenever you will intake, so in this way the reward will occur. In this case, the reward in the form of pleasure, good mood, efficient. But in this case, the dopamine will increase, so the more dopamine receptor will be damaged when bind the dopamine with the receptor as an excitatory neuron. In this way, the excitatory neuron require more dopamine for binding with the receptor because the dopamine resistance will occur. In this way, you will increase the dose of the nicotine for increase the dopamine. And in this way, the more dopamine will easy to bind because the affinity will be decreased with the receptor, so the requirement of the dopamine will more. In this way, you will increase the drug, and the increase day by day lead to cause addiction. And that addiction will lead to cause problem. And this is the side effect because the dopamine releasing system will lead to cause addiction. How to quit the addiction? In this way, the stop smoking, stop nicotine consumption, and in this way you will enter into the dopamine fasting. But anyhow, you are also basically a dopamine normal level, because whenever you will quit that certain habit which that releasing chronically the dopamine, basically the chronically dopamine releasing which that will lead to cause health problem. And in this way, the health issue due to the increase the dopamine release. And in this way, the dopamine whenever will lead to normal function if. So in this way, you can exercise, fasting and a good healthy diet like the tryptophan and omega-3 fatty acid containing diet, which that are present in the meat and beef, on the other hand the beans, and a lot more fat containing diet. In this way, the tryptophan is important for the synthesis of dopamine, and you should maintain the dopamine in the vesicle of the presynaptic neuron. The presynaptic neuron will not release. Whenever it will release, so the complete and more efficient releasing of the neurotransmitter will work properly. So anyhow, the dopamine is very important neurotransmitter which that will lead to get the positive feedback. In this way, again dopamine releasing strategy in our brain will work. It is autonomically released and it is not in our control, but we can trigger it through our xenobiotics like the nicotine and the on the other hand a lot more stimulatory drugs like amphetamine. Anyhow, in this way, the dopamine is very important neurotransmitter, will lead to cognitive function and the memory working in your brain. On the other hand, the basically is the normal movement of your body, even the digestion, and on the other hand, a lot more important things which that is important for the normal physiology of our body. Dopamine is neurotransmitter which that bind with the receptor. If the receptor will damage due to the chronic releasing of the dopamine, will lead to cause dopamine resistance. This dopamine resistance will lead to cause health issue, and in this way your proper mood and your mood will swing. On the other hand, the irritation and frustration, anxiety, depression can be caused. So in this way, don't intake too much drug like alcohol or the nicotine as well as cannabinoid, because they are stimulatory for the dopamine releasing, and in this way the dopamine resistance due to the addiction, because this positive feedback loop will lead to trigger more addiction, and in this way you will addict to release the dopamine. Basically you are focusing the dopamine release, and in this way you are increasing the dose of drug for increasing the releasing of the dopamine neurotransmitter, and whenever it will be bind with the receptor will damage, so the affinity with the binding on the basis of the quantity of the dopamine release. Whenever the dopamine resistance will increase, so the dose of the drug required more for releasing more dopamine to bind easily with the receptor. So in this way, this strategy will lead to cause ultimately death. So remember that things. Important thing is that you should quit the drug for decline the dopamine release, but store in the vesicle for normal and proper functioning whenever the need. Not consume too much drug for unfortunately release of the dopamine without any need. I hope you make sense about that. If you like my video, please make sure to subscribe, like and share. In this video we have discussed about the dopamine working, how dopamine will work and how it can improve. So it can improve through fasting, and it can improve through good healthy diet and exercise. See you in the next video. For this time, bye. Allah Hafiz.